Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, if you're one of those investors who needs a Tums or some kind of antacid because of the daily gyrations of the stock market, we'll be talking to a look at investing. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, the stock market has been going through some weird gyrations in the last few days. Some people are blaming the economy. If you're one of those investors who really can't stand the idea of the roller coaster ride, there's another way to look at investing. We're going to talk about that today with Hodges. He is with Hodges.
It's great to see you again, Dallas legend. I'm glad.
Well, no, you're very kind, and I should tell you that Clark and I had the privilege of working together about a decade ago, and great guy, and you'll learn more about his company.
So are you.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. So let's talk about this Hodges private client that you just started.
Yeah, Hodges private client is, we think, going to fill a need out there in the market. You know, today the investment business is all about gathering assets. Hey, I want to get as many clients as I can. And you really don't get an individual touch if you're just a normal investor who has a normal amount of money. And so today it's so popular to go on and do day trading on an app and trade cryptocurrencies and things like that. But there's people out there that need to check that box, that are not into day trading. They're not into looking at the market all day long. They have a job. They have their business. They're running their business. In the back of their head, there's that question mark. I hadn't taken care of my retirement yet. What am I doing about my retirement? So we've come up with Hodges Private Client, and we're going to have 50 of the best companies in America. We're going to put in a portfolio for that investor, and he puts his money in there, and it's a long-term investment, and he's not going to look at it every single day, but he can now say, I've checked the box, I've got 50 great American companies, and my retirement is set. I just got to sit back and breathe now. And so there's a need for that out there, someone who's not into day trading, but just they're into their business, but need to check that box. So we're excited about that.
Absolutely, and I think that helps a lot of investors who end up doing some knee-jerk stuff, like selling at the bottom last year. I mean, have you sold at the bottom? You would have
human nature
it.
Gets in the way of investors, and you know, I'm a great example of it. I've made many mistakes because I was like, well, something's going on today, or this is going to, but the bottom line is, my dad used to say this, the stock market never ends. It closes at 3 o'clock today, but it opens up in the morning at 8:30. And so when you don't have a final whistle or a final buzzer, you know it starts all over. So the next day is an opportunity for a new beginning in that company, or what's going on in the world, or what the headline is that currently moving the market down. So sometimes people do get in their own way. And the Robinhood thing is really popular right now. And those investors who are trying to day trade, they're making a lot of mistakes. Sure. Positively looking at it, they'll be better investors 10 years down the road because they'll learn from those mistakes. But it is something to not take lightly and think you can make money just day trading, because you can't.
Well, I want to talk more about your father in a minute, but we found a great overview video. Let's go ahead and roll that now.
Hodges Capital Management is entirely focused on equity investing. And that means that we're going to go direct to the source and do bottom-up investing in individual companies. We're talking to vendors, suppliers, customers, really to evaluate what's going on in those businesses and find the best risk reward for both our shareholders and our clients. Hodges Capital Management, it is a culture that is really client-focused. Our goal is really to serve our clients and our shareholders And we really don't have an axe to grind with investment banking or any other facets of the investment business.
I think one thing that makes us a little different is we really don't care what other firms own. You know, there's a big herd mentality on Wall Street, and you want to own a lot of the names that your competitors own. We want to own what we know is a good value and a good buy, and that's why we do all of our own research. Our analysts are really great at gathering information, good and bad, on a company, and they bring all the facts, all the the channel checks that they do, and they present the data. And as a manager, we kind of assess the data and make the call if it's a good buy or not.
In our investment process, we get to meet with management of these companies that we're looking at.
One thing we do have in common with our shareholders is we are owners too. So we're in there with them, and we have the same incentives to grow the assets, grow the capital as they do.
And you've got the coolest location.
Yeah.
The home was built in
1906.
1906. I mean, it's right there on
Maple Avenue. It's got a designation, a historical designation. It's called the Mayor's Mansion. And Tom Bradford, who was a mayor of Dallas in the 1920s, that was his home. It's been other things throughout the years, but because it was the mayor's house, we have a historical marker out front. It's built in 1906. Not a lot of things in Dallas are still around from 1906, but we have pictures of it with a Model T out front. And in the 1930s, a Catholic girls' home bought it, extended it back. It's 15,000 square feet, right there on Maple Avenue near the Crescent.
And your dad started the firm in 1989.
1989 with my brother Craig, yes.
Wow, family company, which I love because mine is a family company as well.
Yeah.
You've built a wonderful reputation. You guys are always being quoted in the media. In fact, we've got an article from the Wall Street Journal. That's got to feel good when the national press will turn to your firm for answers.
Yeah, it's kind of a compliment to say your investment process works. Now, not all investment processes work every year, but given what the stock market did after the pandemic and how fast the market came back, which was a surprise to us, it's nice to know that the stocks that we were choosing that we thought would do well in a pandemic and all the changes that had gone out there, it's nice to see that it bounced back real nicely.
Well, I know your dad, we lost him a few years ago.
Yep.
He's still near and dear to your heart. You think about him all the time. He wrote an amazing book a few years ago called Horse Sense. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen. Because you were tremendously proud of this book, weren't you?
Yeah. We decided to find his quotes. So growing up, my brother and my sister and I, we sat there and watched our dad read every single night. And one of the things he did for probably 40 years was he collected quotes. He would tear out of magazines or newspapers a quote by somebody, and he would tear it out if he thought it was true. If it was a truism, he saved it. Well, by the time we had this party for his 50th anniversary in the business, we had 1,500 or 1,600 quotes for him. He made it into a book. It's a wonderful thing to have, especially that now that he's gone. I've got a little piece of him. He used to try to bribe his grandkids and say, look, if you'll read 2 quotes a day, at the end of the year, I'll give you $500.
Wow.
Because he really believed that much in what kind of wisdom was in there. And I do an occasional LinkedIn post and I read a quote and I get positive feedback from people. If I meet a person at a conference, and I'll send them the quotes. It's really a good little thing to have.
I've read the book. It's awesome and it's inspiring. And you were telling me a story just before we went on the air about a gentleman who called you, compliment you on your dad.
Yeah, so my dad's been gone since 2015. About 2 months ago, I got a call from a gentleman who left me a voicemail, and he said, Clark, you don't really know me, but I just want to let you know I was thinking about your dad today. He and I used to go to lunch. And the things we talked about, he really did help me a lot in my investments, and I just really miss those times. And he just left that on my voicemail, and I'm thinking, golly, that's such a nice thing. 6 years later, someone's thinking about my dad and how it took the time to call me. So yeah.
I think about your dad, I think about integrity, and I think in the field that you're in, integrity is so important because unfortunately there are other people in your field who might be doing things that are not in the client's best interest.
Sure.
And your dad lived by, do right.
My dad would tell you that he didn't look at it as a job, he looked at it as a calling. and he was there to help people. He got more pleasure out of helping a woman who lost her husband, who had a little bit of money, and she needed to live on it. You know, that's what he really enjoyed and got a lot of pleasure out of. The guy that had plenty of money and wanted to have his own stock portfolio, you know, he's like, yeah, who doesn't want a big account? But, you know, the real joy he got was from that person that really needed help with their money, and he looked at it as a calling, and we do too to this day still.
Well, I love the admiration you have for your dad. We've got about a minute left. You're a proud papa yourself.
Yeah.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave for your kids?
Well, I think about that a lot. I was thinking about it this morning, and you know, I don't know what I'll leave behind that my kids will say like I do on a daily basis. I'm so glad he did this. I'm so glad I have this. It's part of him. But I try to live my life accordingly because I had such a good example. Who knows if I'm doing it or not? Well, I guess the judge will ultimately be my kids. But my kids and I, we have a great relationship. We just took one to college last week. We had a cry fest there. Got another one in college. I've got a out of college married girl that's she's getting her graduate degree, and then I have a third grader. So we have a lot of fun. It's a great thing. I'm happiest when I'm with my family. Love it. And that's all that really matters, you know.
Okay. Any hope that any of them will join you in the business?
You know, that'd be great. I don't think about it because I want them to follow their passion. I know my daughter is going to be a therapist, a child therapist, and she would be so good at that. I can't wait to see that. My oldest son that is at Texas Tech, he wants to be a pilot. So I'm enjoying watching them, you know, discover their passion and move towards it.
Outstanding. Well, Clark, you've been a great guest, and thank you for our friendship over the years.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We're going to end with the website. It's hodgescapital.com. Clark Hodges, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.